Well, I can say I have definitely, again, as I say, if you want to hear God, like, tell them your plans. Because opening up a care home was not in my 5 and 10 year plan. So that's my reason for running a little behind today. I have a client that's not doing so well, and I need to give her a little TLC this morning. She was not happy with me, but I had to get her cleaned up and feeling good. But I've been in the field 18 years now. Feels like a little bit longer, but it's only been 18. Straight out of college, went into the lovely world of social services, human services. That's why I went and got my master's. Thought I was going to be able to, as we say in social work, save the world. Well, thankfully, a great mentor who I still talk to this day told me you're going to have to pick a population. And I'm so glad I did. Seniors has been my population the whole entire 18 years. Took a little sabbaticals here and there because of the burnout, because it can be very stressful, especially when you're advocating for such a great cause, which is to make sure you all have a quality, seniors have a quality of life and have what they need. And so 7 years ago, probably longer than that, the vision of True Care came about because I was seeing myself work for corporate companies who were just about the bottom dollar and not the client. And as a social worker, we don't do that. We talk about the client. We're person-centered. So we're not about, heads in the bed or, a census. We're about that individual that needs that particular resource or care. And so True Care, like I said, open was my vision many years as I was finding myself, again, burnout, leaving jobs after a year. I think the longest I stayed on the job was 2, now almost 3, because I am now working in guardianship part-time with wards of the state or public guardianship for what I consider elder orphans who don't have family, who don't have people who could help them connect to resources. And so I enjoy it. I always say this, pick a job you don't have to need a vacation from. That's what I do all day. And like I said, I enjoy it. Do you need a little self-care? Absolutely. And I promote it with my interns. I work very closely with North Carolina Central in Durham. And I work with other various universities and colleges with social workers because, again, that's my passion. Seniors, human services, just again, finding the need and meeting that need. And the aging population, I feel a lot of times fall through the cracks because you get older, you're not able to work anymore, and it's like, just go home and sit in the rocking chair. They still have vibrant lives to live, and they still deserve just as much care as the next person. So I am constantly on my soapbox, on the battlefield. I was hearing Ms. Karena's story about the lovely world of healthcare and insurance. And we are in some very tumultuous times, and I stay on the phone. I stay advocating, and as I say, by any means necessary, everything the squeaky wheel gets the oil. You work hard. You shouldn't have to spend your life savings to get adequate care or just basic care. Even the specialty cares, I'm very particular. So I'm thankful to be here, thankful for my awesome team of Ms. Tammy and April, who referred me out to a bigger just I have helped very numerous of their family members, and it is an honor that, word of mouth is the best referral source. And I don't get to do a lot of advertising and marketing really anymore, especially since COVID, because we've been in the trenches just trying to make sure that our basic clients or our clients' basis is covered. So I'm getting back out, and like I said, this is probably one of my second or third ones for the year, end of the year to do. So I'm so excited, and we'll jump right in if you want to get to that first.
I'm going to introduce Weston first, and then we'll jump in.
I'll stand behind you right now.
So Weston Moore is from Griswold Home Care, and he's a bachelor's degree from ECU, community educator for home care, and personal experience receiving Griswold services for loved ones. So I'll let you take the floor and tell a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Karena, for inviting me to come out to this. Thank you, everybody, for sharing some of your time today. I know the weather wasn't amazing as we all anticipated, but it really means a lot that you guys all made it here. But like Karena said, I'm Weston. I work for Griswold. We're a family and locally owned home care agency. So we've been servicing the Wake Forest area, basically the entire Wake County, Franklin, and Johnston counties for 11 years now. We did open our doors originally in December 2013, so it's 11 years this month. But if you're not really familiar with what home care does, we provide personal and inpatient care services. So we're a great added complement to if someone's receiving home health or even hospice. Home care can be there as well to add some extra comfort and support, especially with ADLs. ADL is just a fancy acronym for activities of daily living. So like brushing your teeth, going to the bathroom, taking a shower, meal prep, those sorts of things that it's pretty unavoidable to do each day. And it's not just a senior thing, everyone goes through these things. And so, as you get older, it's totally normal for those activities to become harder and harder. And so that's where our services come in, to where, each day is not a challenge, but each day is greeted with, one of our fantastic caregivers who can be there for emotional and or physical support. That way you can live assured, live comfortably, and you're not as vulnerable as you are, especially if you're living by yourself, as many seniors do. So, home care can be a very important resource for those people, especially. I'm the community relations manager for Griswold. Before that, I was a care coordinator for a year and a half. So that was a lot of, client conversations over the phone, making sure they were okay, making sure they're enjoying their caregivers that we assigned them, hiring caregivers, scheduling them with the clients. So I did that for a year and a half, and so this role I'm kind of more doing some more educational presentations and making friends out in the community to see if there are any gaps that we can help fill and provide a really helpful resource. And then I think after this presentation, I'll be spending the rest of my day delivering some Christmas pies to all of our clients. So that's another thing. If you're one of our clients, you might get a little Christmas pie. So
Yeah. What exactly is a Christmas pie?
Angus bar and chocolate chestnut.
Oh, man, you went straight to the top.
We don't play around. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Well, if you need one to roll off the truck, I think that's a good Okay, well, let's get started. We've got some questions, and I think both of Trista and you and Weston can both weigh in. What are some signs you or a loved one might need some help with everyday tasks?
Definitely, I think and you probably can really speak on this too, but I think when you're starting to notice, you're not able to, do the daily chores, like you mentioned, cleaning up, tidying up the home. I notice a lot with falls. I just got a call from a good friend that I was in a group with. Her mom had 15 falls. And I was like, somehow EMS was like, okay, because she was basically calling EMS to just come pick her up and put her back in her chair or bed. And I'm like, 15 times I think is overkill. So when you start to see the falls, your health is declining, poor hygiene. I see someone who is normally well-groomed, makeup, lipstick. Again, the falls is a big risk only because you can definitely cause internal and of course external damages to your body. So that's a big indication for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say constant episodes of forgetfulness. A lot of our clients are more so cognitively impaired rather than physically disabled. I'd say the physically disabled clients that we serve are basically someone that's coming off of a hip replacement or a knee replacement surgery, or they're going through chemo, and so, just living each day is a lot harder when we were healthy. But yeah, constant episodes of forgetfulness, if someone's forgetting what family member visited them 2 or 3 days ago, if they're starting to forget their medication, medication mismanagement is a huge one. That is a common service that we offer to where we can provide medication organization assistance. Especially we've had some clients where their family is several states away, and so they live by themselves, and they're not able to go to the pharmacy themselves, so we're able to accompany them. And that's a really big deal, because if you're not taking your medication, then chances are you're probably not going to be in your home very long. You'll likely go to a skilled nursing facility or a hospital or a nursing home. And I understand, I would say the majority of everybody would want to stay in their home as long as they can, right? That's a pretty common goal. I know I want to live in a home as long as I can, right? So that's one. Unexplained bruises. We've seen that a lot. Sometimes if someone gets a wound and it becomes chronic, then that's when we would assemble a home health team to accompany them and just focus on that wound themselves. But yeah, home health is a great resource for nitpicky medical assistance, and they usually solve those pretty quickly. Unexplained bruises, medication mismanagement, common signs of forgetfulness. I would say those are probably major ones for sure.
Okay. And what kind of help is available? You've mentioned some of those, but anything you want to say in addition to that?
Definitely the home health, what we consider skilled home health, with the physical therapist, occupational therapist, the nurse. An aide does come out if needed, but a lot of times it's really those skill needs. PT, we'll say PTOT, speech therapy. We don't touch on this a lot, but I think about as a social worker and work a lot with mental health, social isolation, social distance. If you're not coming out to these wonderful places like this, if you were doing it and then you stop doing it and people don't notice, it's good to it's easy to notice the physical changes, but the more psychological, emotional changes. A lot of my clients, unfortunately, deal with a lot of loss. People pass, their loved ones, their friends, their close friends, and depression, other underlying mental illnesses run rampant that go unnoticed, untreated, and that can't happen, because it's what I always preach. Is that if you go to the doctor for your diabetes, you go to the doctor for your hurt hip or knee, you gotta go for your mental as well. You gotta let them know, hey, I'm feeling doom and gloom, especially like today. You may have an off day, but if it's more than 3 to 4 times a day, you're not coming out to the senior center, you're not wanting to go out on outings. I know my mom before she passed, she used to love going out to eat with her grandbabies, taking them out, doing stuff. When she stopped doing that and didn't want to do it, we knew depression had set in. And we immediately talked with her. Her primary care is key. Those are where, to me, that's where it all starts. The primary care doctor, and you have to vet them. I hate to say it, especially now. You have to vet them, and they have to know you and care. Because the minute my mom started showing those signs, I immediately got her my chart, and because I know she was going to be in denial. It was very taboo to talk about depression and mental illness. And so once we were able to bring that to her, we were able to get her on a regimen, an antidepressant, and it helped. It helped a lot, but unfortunately her physical and medical conditions what unfortunately took her. But like I said, looking at those key signs, like I said, home health, home care is awesome. Like I said, if you can keep them in home, it's a cost, but it's to me, it's worth it, well worth it.
Yeah, kind of going off of mental health, social isolation is a major factor in someone's cognitive decline. So like Trista said, coming to the senior center whenever possible, even on days like this, can make a huge impact on your mental health, especially when you're hanging out with your peers. And then for people that you may know that are already experiencing that cognitive impairment, adult daycare centers are a great place to go to. Aging Care Matters, I think, is the adult daycare in Wake Forest.
It is.
Hosted by Carla Payne. That's a great place to go to. She's even opened another one in Durham, if y'all know anybody that is looking for that social stimulation for someone who's either going through dementia or Alzheimer's. And then Tifa Snow, if you're not familiar with her, her home base in Hillsborough, and she's globally known. So it's really cool that she's basically in our backyard offering that education assistance, how to take care of someone with dementia. And what to anticipate if your loved one has dementia. So globally known, I highly recommend going to our website. It's called thesnowapproach.com, or you just type in Team the Snow and find her website there. But she's globally known. She goes on many tours and speaking engagements just to kind of share how she can help people, especially the senior population. So y'all are in a great place. The senior center is amazing. I've been in many other senior centers. This is by far the best one. And so y'all have a lot of great resources in your backyard, either for you or for someone you know. So yeah.
Okay. Oops, oh, I got a little happy there. Let's see. Thank you. Is that where I was? Okay. Is it better to choose to have help at the current home, or should I consider moving to a community such as assisted living?
It's definitely going to be each individual's what they have set up. I can't stress enough being prepared. If we don't plan, we're going to fail. So it's never too late. I personally feel like it starts at home, as they say. It starts home, and then you can even carry it if you do have to go into another home. Like I said, I would definitely start. I always start with the medical team, your doctors, your primary care, any specialty doctors, because they're gonna more than likely be able to kind of give you, now I won't say the prognosis, but if it is safe for you to be home, if you can be home with 24-hour care or with some care and be left alone, it's gonna be each individual's situation. I was thankful, and I always use my mom as an example because I was a caregiver and then turned professional, so it was both. So she moved out, we were from the Outer Banks, and the healthcare there is not the best, so we had already moved her medical team here. So she was already coming here pretty regular to see her doctors. When it got to the point where she was not safe and she was basically hiding a lot of her conditions, my siblings and I moved her with me. So she lived with me. It was more convenient for her to be with me the end of life, because I was able to bring everything in-house. And again, she had to do some short-term rehab here and there. But again, every person's situation is going to be different. But again, it's never too late, and it's never too, I would say you could always start at home. If you need a transition, that can happen. But I would always say start at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the most common misconception with home care is that it can only take place in the home. We do have several clients that are in assisted living or even independent living communities. But with assisted living, since this question is specific to assisted living, you're mainly, if you're not really familiar with it, you're mainly sharing a very large space with many other residents. So, again, that social isolation, that can help a lot with that you're with your peers literally every single day, every minute of the day. But if you are more concerned about addressing your physical needs, or if you recommend or prefer some one-on-one interaction, I would recommend home care. But when you're in assisted living, you're sharing a lot of time with the nursing staff to kind of receive that attention. Whereas with home care, depending on how many hours of the day you are requesting for shifts, it's literally just our caregiver and yourself. The most people we've ever taken care of at once was a couple. It was a husband and a wife that were both needing home care assistance from us. But beyond that, we've never taken care of any more than that in one particular home. So that's just the main difference between assisted living and home care, is the attention, also the cost. Assisted living, the typical price per month is around $5,000 to $7,000 a month. Typically that can be out of most people's budgets, but if you have that saved, that's great. But with home care, you have a little bit more leverage with how much money you're spending. So with us, we work with people on a case-by-case basis. A lot of home care agencies have minimums, but we want to be able to meet people where they are. So for example, some agencies even have a 6-hour minimum, but we don't necessarily want to turn anybody away from our services just because they're not asking for X amount of hours. We want to be able to assist them where they are, because a lot of times if someone keeps getting told no with asking for 2 or 3 hours, and they're continuing to live by themselves, especially during that period that they were seeking help for, you know, an accident can happen to where then they need even more hours of care, they need to spend more money. So I even left a flyer on this table. It's another kind of virtual care device. And so that's adding that extra 24/7 virtual coverage support, completely complimentary. That way, even if you're asking for 3 or 4 hours, we still have this device in your home that's able to transmit real-time data to our office for any changes in condition or living environment. So you're basically getting 24/7 coverage and you're just spending the amount of hours that you were requesting in the first place. So it's a really cool added tool, and if y'all have any specific questions regarding that, I can talk to you more about it.
So what are some pitfalls I should avoid if I'm a caregiver or I need to?
Well, I think, you know, again, that open communication with your family, somebody always recommend that you find someone, whether it be a child, whether it be your, you know, a close friend or nieces, nephews, someone you trust to carry out your wishes, possibly in the event you're not able to communicate it. I always start with, again, that communication before you get to the point where you need care. I can't stress it enough. I'm 41 and I definitely am putting things in place right now. I don't have children that I've birthed, but I have nieces and nephews that I trust, that I know will carry out my wishes. So I started having those talks with them. They're in their 20s. I can't believe it. They were just babies. I was toting, but I always say communicate. Again, be prepared for, like I always tell people, was like, and I talk to families every day, and it's like, what are we waiting for? You know, because it's going to come. Unfortunately, a situation's going to come, and you want to be prepared. So I always say avoid not telling your family, and especially your primary cares or your doctors, what's going on with you inside and out. And then that way, you can better plan, you can better, as I say, be proactive and not reactive. Because once you're reactive, you get those issues where, like you said, you avoid those companies that give you all these demands and not more of what they can offer, because then something bad can happen and then you end up like the one client last week with the 15 falls. And unfortunately now she's in skilled nursing. She's not going to be able to go back home because she did not disclose this to her daughter, who's her healthcare power of attorney, until it was too late. And at this point, she's had hip replacements, knee replacements. With those falls, she's jilted some stuff. They may have to go back in. It just is like one snowball thing after another. And now we're at a point where I'm telling her daughter, it's just not feasible for her to go back home, even with all the medical and all the things that's been going on. So I always say communicate with your powers that be, like I said, whether it be your family, your children, someone you trust that you know is going to carry out what you want. And be thinking about it, even though I had some clients when I first started out 18 years ago, oh, I'm going to live forever. Or I have some that says, I didn't think I was going to live this long. Well, we're living longer, thanks to technology and thanks to healthcare that was really, really good at one point, and people are living longer. Like I said, my 89-year-old that's not doing so well today, unfortunately, she, again, we were not prepared. So it's now having to, kind of catch up, and it can be tricky. So I always encourage that.
Okay. Weston, any thoughts?
We have very similar answers. I was also going to say that to be proactive rather than reactive, because when you're being reactive, you're kind of at the whim of every other company that you're talking to for assistance, and they're going to give you their spiel, and you have X amount of time to make a decision, and that's just not a very fun process. Like if you're going out in the market and you're giving yourself 5 minutes to figure out if you want to buy something or not. Like, if you're window shopping, you want to see, what piques your interest, what's cool, what's not. And it's also, a nice time to give yourself the opportunity to make a decision. Whereas being reactive and you're basically limited to a certain amount of options you have, and then it's not fun, right? Like it's a very stressful situation, especially for the care recipient, because they're in immediate need. In this case, if someone were being reactive, they're in immediate need, they need to do something, they might have to select a home health, home care, hospice company, whatever, that their policies don't align with theirs or the values don't align with theirs. And so then they're not satisfied with the services they're paying for, right? Whereas if you're proactive and you do the research around the market to see, which healthcare providers, which home health, which home care companies can meet my needs successfully and consistently, then you have a lot more enjoyable time. And then when it does come time to start paying for your services, you already have a plan laid out, you already have the money set aside to pay. That's another thing, because if you're being reactive, it's very likely you don't have the funds to pay for stuff like this. Whereas you're proactive, you set a savings account or some kind of portfolio. And then I would also recommend doing some estate planning. Try to find a reliable POA that you could, even if they're not family, if you don't have that luxury of having family nearby, or if family is just not even a picture, definitely find that person you can trust the most with overseeing your care.
I would just say from personal experience, I was the daughter of, and I know my mom kept some things because she didn't want me to worry. And I'll just tell you, I worried anyway.
Exactly.
So, and what happened at the end, she'd given the medical people permission to share her medical information with me. So I had to find out from them, not her, that she had a very short period of time. And then I was making really fast decisions and scrambling to get there when she could have just told me herself. And I know she thought she was saving me. I know that. But I was all in the background worrying, I had my fingers on everything anyway. Long distance. This was many, many miles away. So it doesn't save you anything to hide things from your loved ones, because they've got enough clues. And it's just going to put you and them in a better, in a worse position.
And to piggyback off that, share literally everything that you're going through with your medical professional or your family doctor. To receive home care services, for example, you're likely in a vulnerable state, so you might as well be vulnerable with the information you know about yourself physically and mentally. That way you have everything you need, medication-wise, rehab-wise, therapy-wise, that you can be properly taken care of. Because a lot of people, they're hesitant to share everything, right? Especially with scams, but medical professionals, they're not going to scam you, especially with a really good relationship with them. So share everything you know about your health. That way you can have exemplary service following that. So.
And what are the differences or similarities between home health and home care?
That's my favorite question. So home health is more of a medical need. So like Trista was saying earlier, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, respiratory therapy. So they usually do home visits. Their appointments are about 1 to 2 hours. And then they're kind of gone the rest of the day because they're pinpointing that specific medical need. Whereas home care is, providing extra support for physical or emotional needs. So if you're needing home health, it really depends on what you're receiving home health for. If it's something significant and you don't have home care in place while having home health, it's likely you need home care, because if it's like a major, hip or leg or shoulder problem, that home health is there to provide physical therapy for, occupational therapy. It's very likely that your ADLs are going to be impacted when they leave. They're not going to be there all day. They're very brief visits. So I think that's a common misconception. And a lot of times people call Griswold thinking that we're home health, and so we have to tell them we're home care. We do have a great partnership with Medi Home Health. That relationship's been going strong for a while now, and I know plenty of the team members there. So if you call Griswold's needing home health, no worries. That's a quick phone call to our partner, and they can assist with any home health needs that you guys have.
And I think with what people, and somehow it doesn't get to the client or the recipient, home health with the PTOT and the nurse, that is covered under your insurance. You would need a doctor's order. So that's why I would say that relationship with your primary care, where they can write that order, have those great relationships with home health and home care. I think they go, it's like a sandwich, it goes hand in hand. and it goes great. Because the meat and bread, it's like you need that to make a great impact for that person. So again, home health, the skilled professionals, you would need to have a doctor's order, and again, you would have to have an order. It's covered under your health insurance.
Okay. So that's covered under home health.
Home health, skilled
Equals paid for by insurance.
Paid for by
Home
insurance.
care equals paid for out of your pocket.
Out of pocket or long-term care
Long-term
insurance.
care.
And then sometimes home health can be paid via Medicare as well. It really depends on the situation.
Yeah, like I said, it's a lot of the home care is more of the self-pay options. I really wish it would be covered more because it is, like I said, such a need.
It's a gap.
It is a definite gap, and I stay on my soapbox, like I said, all the time, because I feel like, what are we doing if we're not taking care and we're being honest? I don't think we've planned and been proactive when it comes to caring for the older adult and the aging. And again, I feel like certain things they can pay for. I'm just, in my opinion.
And I got an update from corporate this morning. They are trying to figure things out. This is in the works. Nothing's official, but they are trying to figure out how, insurance companies can help cover home care. So long-term care insurance and insurance are technically two different things. But like, your common health insurance, they're trying to figure out ways for that to pay for home care services. Nothing's official yet, but did just get that update this morning. So
That'd be great.
I'm so hopeful.
Yeah. It's the reason why a lot of people go without.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, so, I don't know if I have a Q&A, so let me go back to, so we'll just leave it on the screen, but so we're at the point where we can, if any of you have any questions for our speakers, for Trista and Weston, who has, Mom? Oh, I need to be over this way?
A little bit more.
Okay, so anybody have any questions?
What was the name of the home health that you partnered with?
Medi, so it's spelled M-E-D-I, Medi Home Health, and they also have hospice as well. They've had that for 6 years.
And they're throughout the triangle?
Yeah, they cover all 100 counties actually.
Okay.
I have a question. First of all, thank you, because I didn't sense that you were doing a sales pitch, which I don't want. That's been the case with all your speakers, and I appreciate that. My question has to do with our neighbor who has the long-term health care insurance. Her son has a full-time job and lives in Perth. The problem is, when they tested her to see if she qualified to take advantage of these thousands and thousands she's paid into this, she didn't pass. That's what her son said. So, it sounds to me that if she came the direction of you all, it would make more sense because she needs the help. And I don't know if you do screening that would then apply and be able to have her get this long-term that she's been paying for years and years. What happens?
It's just sickening because again, you have to read the fine print because each policy is going to be different. And so it's going to be important that, again, you ask those questions first before you even get the policy. I have so many, like I said, people that try to sell me a plan, and I'm like, I need to know in this scenario what's going to happen. And I don't know what kind of screening tool they're using, but the last I checked, they don't decide if someone meets the criteria. Because I'm not sure who they are, but again, they can definitely call me and we can go through that policy. We would need to know what they put in there, and then we need to, what I say, nicely argue the point because it's needed.
So that's one of the services that you offer is advocating
I
for
advocate.
someone who has a long-term policy
Absolutely.
that needs to get into that policy.
Exactly.
And it's like any other insurance.
Because
I'm
with
sure.
most long-term, there is some out of pocket, but it's somehow you can get it back. Like you would call Weston and get his services started, but they would somehow work the avenue. I know it's so different because like they were telling me prior, like I would need to try to get some insurance like that now at my age. But if you think about when I turned 75, 80, or God forbid sooner, like my mom, when she needed it, it's like we need to be able to use it. Like, I'm not paying all this money to not be able to use it when I need it. And I always say my philosophy is I'd rather you have it and don't need it than need it and don't have it. So I would definitely encourage her son to reach out to me. They can call the number on the flyer, on my brochure, and let's get with this company because we need to find out, one, the screening process. How can you qualify? Because I have a lot of veterans that we go through this with the VA. Oh, well, they don't need help with this. Oh, yes, they do. They're telling you they don't, but I know for a fact they do because their loved one, their son, their daughters who care for them are helping them do this stuff. But they're telling you that, and we gotta keep that, like I said, that communication very clear, especially when it comes to something you paid into.
But when you're 30, 40 years old taking out this policy, you're not thinking that you're gonna get old. Nor are you necessarily, unless you're educated like you all are, looking at the fine print.
Yes.
So they're asking her, can you put on your coat? Well, she usually asks her son to help her. What does she do? She puts on her coat. What day is it today? Who's the president? She's able to answer all of those. They're saying, you don't need any help.
I would
But
definitely.
see, she needs somebody like you all.
I would definitely ask for a second opinion. I can't stress that enough because they are really, like you said, that's to me a blanket. That's very basic. Everybody knows who's in office because especially if they're watching the news. So it's again, I haven't called me because I would definitely leave it there.
It's like any other insurance policy, they want you to buy it, they don't necessarily want you to use it.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
I mean, it's like homeowners or flood insurance.
Right.
Yeah, they're gonna do everything they can to try to, that's unfortunately this whole thing with the United guy who was shot. That's a sign of the frustration of the American public at all of the, trouble that we have using the insurance that we feel we deserve. Yeah, the benefits.
Yeah, and so you have Trista as a resource as well. If you're wanting to talk with a long-term care insurer, like another long-term care insurance provider, Comfort Long-Term Care, I've met Bill Comfort, he's the founder, the owner of the firm, but he can help answer some questions as well, like long-term care specific questions, or you have Trista here too.
Right.
So.
And if you have kids who are considering, at this point it gets cost prohibitive to even do that, but if you don't already have a long-term care policy in place by the time you're even 60, it's cost prohibitive for most.
Right.
However, you can get a life insurance policy that has a rider that allows you, so like if you get a $300,000 policy, a lot of people have policies, long-term care insurance policies they never use.
Right.
So, and then the money's just gone.
Right.
So with a life insurance policy that has a rider, it allows you, if you pass away, just drop dead, then that goes to your beneficiaries. However, the rider allows you, if you don't die and you suddenly become ill and need help, you can get into that $300,000 to use it to help you. So it gives you, it's essentially a dual purpose policy that wasn't available back in the day when, those of you in the room were 20 and you were, or 30 or whatever age you were if you bought long-term care insurance. That wasn't even a thing to buy the life insurance that had the rider, but it is now. And to me, that's a really good option for a whole lot of people. But it's still, depending on your age, it could be like a luxury car payment.
So what's the rider called?
It's just it has a rider, and so when you talk to the insurance agent that sells life insurance, ask them if they have a life insurance policy that has a rider that allows you to use that for long-term care.
Okay.
That's what you're shopping for. To me, that's the best of both worlds. Yeah. Other questions?
I would also recommend talking with your children who, might be like in their 30s or 40s or however old they are. That's typically a really good time to start purchasing long-term care insurance policy plans. Like if you wait till your 60s or 70s, that's when the fees are going to be really, really high. Whereas if you start, this would be a good conversation to have with your younger family members, but yeah.
Yeah, at every 5-year increment, it goes up quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if somebody's at 49, now's the time, don't wait till you're 50.
Right.
Because you can lock in a lower rate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, other thoughts? You kind of sped through it.
I have another question. This has to do with this same lady I'm talking about. I think that a lot of hers is loneliness. I mean, for her to call me at 7:30 in the morning, because it's a dreary day and she's lonely, I was like, oh God, I went to bed at 12:30. Anyway, do you provide services, sorry about that. Do you provide services that says for somebody just to come in and visit for an hour?
Yes, we actually started it was a senior wellness check, and we would do the daily calls. And obviously, if she didn't pick up, we would, reach out to her son, we would reach out, and then of course make a physical call, a physical home visit. We again trying to work with the home care piece, and that's again another one where that social isolation that causes to me more problems. Mm-hmm. That's like you say, where the cognitive things start to slip, as we say. They don't start remembering who the president is. They think they're back in another time where we're not at the present. We do those phone calls right now, but again, we work very closely with home care. We work with their doctors again to try to get a plan in place. And that's really True Care's goal, is to find something that again is going to meet her need. Because hopefully if she's up at 7:30, I hope she's sleeping at night, because that's another thing too, if they're not
She
sleeping.
gets up at 4:30, because he has to get ready for work,
Okay.
so she gets up that early.
Okay.
And then they go to bed at 7:30 at night.
So she's yes, hopefully she's sleeping through the night, prayerfully, and
You've talked about, I think it's the same neighbor, right? That's the one you talk about quite a bit,
We
yeah.
talk about wake up call.
Yeah, she's lucky to have you, because it sounds like you try to advocate for her.
Yes, and you please, because I can't stress that enough. Working on the court side now, part-time, and doing guardianship, I hear a lot of horror stories where people have laid on the floor for 15 hours. Laid there because they didn't have awesome neighbors like you who peeped in and called 911 and got fire rescue over there so that they could get the help they needed. We end up getting, unfortunately, when that happens, and now we're at a point where, hey, you're not safe at home anymore, and we have to look at other alternatives, and it is hard, and it's hard on the mental, because this particular one that's laid there on the floor for 15 hours, this has been 4 or 5 years, and she's upset every time I see her every month, because I see her monthly, and she's not happy that the guardian of the estate and sell her house to pay for her skilled facility, nursing facility, and the fact that she didn't have a say. Well, unfortunately, we had a diabetic, non-compliant, we were in a shop, and we ended up on the floor. They have to kind of desperate times offer desperate measures. They had to act fast. It wasn't not much we had choice to do with. So it's very hard on them. So I would be happy to talk with that son and try to get a plan in place for her.
Well, and Weston brought it up, be proactive rather than reactive.
Absolutely.
Because you have a lot fewer choices and the bottom of the barrel choices when you're reactive.
Listen.
Yeah, so you're very wise to plan. Yeah, that's, I always,
My book is
I say a lot.
lot.
Yeah,
Lord.
I say a lot of the times, hope is not a plan.
That's it.
And there's a lot of people who say to me, oh, I'm not gonna move out of my house, I'm gonna be carried out in a pine box. And I say back, hope is not a plan. That sounds like a dream to me. Wouldn't we all like to die in our sleep and just have someone, come check all the boxes and take care of everything? But that's not really how life works for most of us, right? There's other kind of stumbles along the way,
It's so true.
right?
She's called EMS no less than 75 times in the last 6 months.
Wow.
And every time they come by, the lights shine in our window, so we know when she's going, but her, we can tell almost like through the clockwork how long she's gonna be home. Then she goes back to the hospital, then they put her in rehab, they take her out of rehab, they put her back in her house. It's just a revolving door. And,
Something has
and plus she's got some mental problems and early dementia on top of everything. Is there any way that the government can step in and stop that from happening?
Well, again, it's gonna take, again, someone being a voice for her. I'm not sure where she's going. I'm finding out now that a lot of people are I hate to say it because they're my colleagues and I have to have come to Jesus meetings with them every day because they're not disclosing information to the families where they could get certain help in home where they're not, as we say, abusing EMS. You know, because again, like I said, if you're calling multiple times, that is a red flag, as we say. We know something's wrong. Something's cognitively wrong, something's mentally wrong. And again, we don't need to put a Band-Aid. We no longer need to put a Band-Aid on a wound. We need to treat it, get it healed, and we need to fix it.
In this case, the son lives there, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming son has power of attorney over their
He has power of attorney, but he's like afraid to use it, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he still
just-
has a decent amount of cognitive skills, and so that's where you hear
I would-
his hands are tied.
I would have a discussion with the son. He has to be tired of, I mean, he has to be exhausted.
Oh,
So I would have a discussion with him and say, listen, there's some resources that are available for you. The Tristas and Carlas of the world.
This is a new resource, we'll tell him.
And he
Yes.
definitely needs that because I cannot stress how caregivers, I come to families and I always look like, who's the caregiver, who's the client, or who needs the care? Because the caregiver goes through just as much mentally,
Yes.
physically, and he is, what I always tell families is, he's the son, that's his mother. It is very hard, and I did it for myself, I know it personally. That's his.
It's a role reversal.
It's a
and
role
hard
reversal
reversal to make.
that I wouldn't wish on anybody because the tables turn. And I used to joke with my mom. I think I got payback for whatever kind of child I was growing up because it's like they become again. He becomes the custodial person or the responsible person, and I know it's difficult. And no offense to men because I love you guys, but it is harder for them, especially with mom. And they don't want to see them go down in decline. So that's why they need someone to come in, a third party, somebody neutral that's gonna be, you know, what I call, but not biased. Because I'm sure he's like, that's my mom, that's my superhero, she can do no wrong. But mom is needing help. Like I said, the tables turned, the roles reversed, and he's gonna have to definitely be proactive, and he's gonna need somebody to help him kind of push that along. For sure.
When I've seen life care managers like Trista, like Carla Payne, who've come in and worked with families, that unbiased third party, it's a deal maker. That's literally how you get the decisions made. In my estimation, that's what I've seen and the feedback that I've gotten. So it's well worth the investment to have someone come out and take all that burden off the family and say, listen, this is what I'm seeing and hearing. And let me lay out reality for you. And here's your options, you know, good and bad. Because, you know, one of the options is to do nothing, and here's how that'll play out.
Right.
And we try to, you know, give him brochures and talk to him about the people we've heard, and he won't respond. I mean, it's like he's afraid or something.
So you need unbiased, because for some reason he sees us as biased.
Yeah.
I think he just fears the unknown of what could happen. And again, I cannot stress enough from the court side, whereas you either do it or God forbid something happens where it endangers her life or his life, then the courts get involved. You don't want that. You honestly do not want the court dictating what's going to happen and what's not. And I try my hardest, even though they have, you know, kind of wrote me in to help out because it's such a need. But I try to get to families before we get to that point. Because I'm like, what are we waiting for? We're not waiting for the shoe to drop. We're waiting for, let's fix this now and not have her in and out of the hospital, in and out of the, I mean, I'm sure that can't be good either for her, in her cognition, like I said. I'm sure he is definitely, and probably will have a sour relief once he finds someone, once he, you know, gets that person. And I'm very like, you know, just, I have that kumbaya with them because I can relate, again, personally and professionally. My mom would not listen to a lot of the things that I would suggest, but as soon as someone below Joe said, oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm looking like, I've been only saying this for 3 years, and now you wanna do it because somebody told a stranger to you told you that you should do this.
And it's your line of work.
It's
You're
my line of work.
educated.
That's what I said. What do I know? I've only been doing this for 10 years, and she's like, oh, And again, they do sometimes look at it as, oh, you're just a
The
child.
child.
You're still in that, stay in the child's place, and it's like, but mom, this is what I do, like, listen, just please. But like I say, I try to prevent, again, the powers that be coming in. I work, again, closely with adult protective services. We don't need them coming out and saying, you're not doing X, Y, and Z. We don't want them to come out and give him, thinking he's already probably feeling powerless as it is. And having this person come in and say, you gotta do this, this, and this, or we're gonna do this, it's just not. Those ultimatums are not worth it.
How old is she?
She's probably mid-70s.
Okay. I know when I was struggling through some of mom's situation, I had a conversation with a counselor, and he said, well, Karena, just know that around the age of 80, and it can start earlier for some, cognitive decline, your frontal lobe starts to decline, and that is reason and logic. And chemo, in her case, is a double whammy for that. It also affects frontal lobe. So the thing that he's not understanding, I think, is that the roles have already reversed. He's just not taking the reins.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
And it's
That's
not
what it sounds like to
is he
me.
the only child? I'm sure.
Yes.
We've done everything we know to do.
Only child.
Yeah,
Oh my.
Yeah, he's definitely in a pickle, as we say, and I only hope that he will take you all stern advice, because I can hear you all's voice that you all are pretty much fed up with, something has to be
Well,
done.
we're not fed up, it just pains us.
Yes,
to
absolutely.
see that
Hard to watch.
Yeah.
Right.
the tax dollars that are just going down the drain.
Oh, they're sending her bills. They're sending her bills on unless she has some kind of insurance, the insurance covers it, but even then, they don't pay all of it. And they're sending her a bill. EMS is definitely sending her a bill.
Yeah. What are some resources that you pass their way?
Everything that we've heard here. So it's like, we have overturned every stone.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, a prophet is without honor in his own town, and here we are. Not that we're prophets, but, relaying what you all have said.
Right.
Sharing, forget it. So I think.
Yeah, and I think he's overwhelmed, so you can give him, you almost have to physically put me in front of him and me try to get some, and I can pull it out of him more, because again, with my expertise, I have done, I'm thankful, very thankful for my expertise, but like I said, he's overwhelmed. So I'm sure getting those brochures were helpful and very needed, but he can't even see the door. Like
So-
he can't see it.
I'm a thought. What if Carolyn and Richard were to go to the Sun and say, you must be exhausted. Are you exhausted?
We've already asked.
And we know we've given you some resources, but we have a lady, would you mind if we invited her over? And would you be willing to do that?
Because when I say
Our home.
To your house? Now you're neutral.
Yep.
Now you're neutral, and Trista's willing to do that. So now we get them in the same room together.
And we keep our mouths shut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, and you just introduce and let them go.
At all.
Yeah. Well, because then Trista works her magic.
And this has been going on for like 6 or 12 months, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's time.
I mean, you've expressed all the concern, you've shown all the tools. He's obviously not going to be proactive, but it's kind of like when I had, for 15 years, probably badgered my mom to get a will, even though she had transfer on death, and I've probably told the story to you before, but I finally called her in May. She died in October of that year, and I said, I'd already talked to my brother. I said, what if Kyle and I paid for the will? Would you go? Kyle has an attorney, he will drive you. And she very quietly said yes. Now, I never paid the bill, neither did my brother. I knew it wasn't the money. But when I took all of the barriers out of the way, she got the will and the trust made, and I'll tell you what, it paved the way just like I knew it would. And it made our path a lot easier, and I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful she said yes. So literally, if you take all the barriers down, I find that it's a little easier for someone to say, well, would you at least listen? And that's all you're asking. So,
That he listens, that's for sure. Because
there goes that beeping again. And it has to do, it's because it went off, but it's I don't know what she pressed earlier.
Rebooting. It's
Do you know what she pressed, Bob, to make the boot beeping go away?
I think she pressed the other remote that has to do with the up-down part,
Okay.
but I don't know.
Well, we're at the end. I can unplug it if nothing else. We were on the screen. If no one else has any other questions, I'm just going to mention. So in front of you, you've got the Downsizers Club I had announced before. We had a couple of glitches with the dates, so just roll with me. I've actually ordered new ones, so the corrected dates are on here, and then I'll have new flyers with the actual real corrected dates where it looks right. But the dates that you see on here are right. So this is Downsizers Club. We'll start in January.
Yeah.
And I've had several people ask me if there's 2 people in a household, husband and wife or whatever, can we come? Is that one? It's $49 for a lifetime to join. And what we'll do is have special experts come in and help you work through the process of downsizing. And then I'll credit the $49 back to you if you ever decide to use my services as your realtor. But the first time is free, so you can come in January and there's no cost, and you can see what that's about. So that's the Downsizers Club. The whole idea is to help you eat an elephant one bite at a time, because I realize there's a lot of people who get kind of trapped by the stuff. So, so there's help on the horizon for you. And then next year's schedule is on this postcard. There was one little glitch on there, so it's February 12th instead of the 15th. If you got my newsletter at the end of the month, it had the wrong dates. These are the corrected ones, and then I'll have new ones next month when you come back. But next month is Money Management Through Retirement. We'll have an Edward Jones specialist speaking, and that is January 15th from 10 to 11:30 back here at the Senior Center. So we're on Wednesdays in this room. We will also be in this room, or half of it, for Downsizers Club. So those will also be on Wednesdays. And then if you wouldn't mind filling out the survey at the end, I always try to take I was mentioning to Carol some of the feedback she'd given. That's going to be used next month at the upcoming seminar. So I like to see if you've got any suggestions. I take all that to heart and try to make sure that we can plug all that in and get some resources for you. So if you aren't already on the newsletter mailing list and you'd like to be, I think a lot of you are, but in fact, this month's newsletter is 10 tips to avoid being lonely. I thought that was apropos for the holiday season. So if you'd like to receive the monthly newsletter, you can fill that out. Absolutely.
I spread it out all over.
Yeah,
Especially in
absolutely.
this area.
Feel free to. So thank you all for coming. All these are, most all of the seminars are replayed on the website, southernAccentHomes.com. So if there are people who would listen to the message, and you would like for them to see the replay, this month's will be recorded and on the website. Occasionally we have somebody, Richard last month was not, we weren't allowed to record. So sometimes we do have speakers who don't allow themselves to be recorded, but most of them are. And thank you again to Weston and Trista for coming and speaking this month.
Thank you, guys.
We really appreciate your help. Thank you all. Have a safe day.